His comic fiction novels have already put him in the same class as Kurt Vonnegut and John Steinbeck. Hi, my name is Stephanie and welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're speaking to author Christopher Moore. How do you go about the development of your characters, trying to give them their own point of view, their own style of speech, etc.?
I had a great teacher, a guy named Shelley Lowenkoff. He ran the professional writing program at USC. I didn't attend that, but I took extension courses from him. And he taught to find out what your characters want and what they're willing to do to get it. And that's how I always go about creating my characters, is finding out what their agenda is. And that sort of makes it easier to find their point of view and then to have them speak, make their dialogue come out and sound authentic to them. And then you go backwards from the story and say, what do I need this character to do? Their personality needs to fit that. And sometimes that's the whole vehicle for humor. I wrote one book that was about a hypochondriac who gets the job of being deaf.
Why would you say you're drawn to such dark themes and storylines?
My dad was a cop, a state trooper. And so, people who work in the emergency services develop this dark sense of humor sort of as a defense mechanism. And so that's what I grew up with. And I think the idea of mixing humor and horror wasn't as foreign to me as it might be to somebody who didn't have that sort of upbringing. What
would you say is the trick to comic writing, especially when you're combining the genre of horror?
It's completely an instinct thing. A lot of it is, the cliche of whistling through the graveyard or gallows humor. You need to laugh when there's that much tension, and to try and build the tension so it's actually scary is the harder part than making it funny. What's funny is just something that comes naturally to me. It's because it's how I react to the world. But trying to make those two things work in Congress with one another, it's work. I have to be honest, it is. But it's usually the scary part that's harder than the funny part.
What is your favorite monster to portray on paper?
I wrote a book about a sea monster, the Les Lizard of Melancholy Cove, and it was this 100-foot-long sea monster who rises from the depths to feed on depressed mammals and has sex with a tanker truck. And then is really depressed and feels rejected when the tanker truck blows up. He thinks that she's just being hard to get. And so that was really probably my favorite monster to write of anything that I've done.
I read that you prefer working in isolated areas, but obviously you need people for inspiration. So what is that like for you?
Well, I lived for years and years and years in little towns out in the middle of nowhere, central coast of California. I was in Kauai on the North Shore for a while. But I have to visit, obviously, as you said, culture and interaction of human beings to observe. The writing process itself is just isolation and discipline. I don't blend those things very well. I can't socialize when I'm writing. I just am sort of this machine that types and eats.
What are you working on right now?
I'm working on a book about French painters in the late 19th century, set in Paris on Montmartre. Has the cast you might think it would have, Toulouse-Lautrec and Gauguin and the Impressionists and so forth. And I hope it'll be funny, and I hope it'll be entertaining, and it'll have weird supernatural stuff in it. But it's just such an interesting period of time and an interesting place that I've been drawn to it, and want to see if I can do something with it.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.